In October 1962, American satellites captured images of Soviet missiles in Cuba, triggering 13 days of nuclear brinkmanship. 60 years later, new satellite photographs reveal another military buildup on Cuban soil. 100 miles from American territory, Chinese engineers construct advanced surveillance facilities. 45 miles from Guantanamo Bay, listening posts track American communications. Russian warships patrol Cuban waters as Beijing expands its intelligence-gathering capabilities across the island. The Cold War mirror reflects a new reality, raising a serious national security question for Washington that remains unanswered. What are America's biggest rivals doing in its backyard? A new espionage hub. Rumors of Chinese intelligence centers in Cuba circulated for decades without proof. Then, the Center for Strategic and International Studies released a report revealing the scope of China's intelligence network on the island. As the CSIS reviewed satellite images of the eastern part of the island, they came across a base near the El Salao neighborhood, consisting of a circularly disposed antenna array, or CDAA, engineered to provide for a 360-degree signal interception. These puzzling images quickly started to raise concern. The situation only worsened after further analysis confirmed this wasn't a new station, but a development that spanned back to 2021, reaching somewhere between 420 and 650 feet in diameter. While the explanation for this base remains ambiguous, its strategic location, positioned just 45 miles from Guantanamo Bay, makes experts uneasy. The CDAA system, seen in the images, was once widely used in Cold War times to pinpoint signal origins, frequencies, and directions across thousands of miles. If Beijing were to unleash its full capabilities once the site was completed, it could allow foreign forces unprecedented access to classified U.S. communications, turning the El Salao base into a listening post on America's doorstep, and placing some of the country's most sensitive operations on real-time display for potential enemies. Spy tech. The dish antennas deployed across Cuba's intelligence network and being employed by the Chinese base are capable of focusing radio waves into a tight, narrow beam, seamlessly communicating with satellites far beyond the Earth's horizon while intercepting signals from varied sources, often capturing vital transmissions floating through the airwaves. Coupled with radar antennas, which track physical objects like ships, aircraft, and missiles, this infrastructure has transformed Cuba into a listening post with unparalleled access to regional activity. The proximity of Cuba's antennas to the U.S. means that long-distance radio signals, typically challenging to isolate amid surrounding noise, can now be detected with eerie precision. Radar emissions, normally hindered by the curvature of the Earth and physical obstacles, can achieve a direct line of sight. In other words, U.S. communications now have nowhere to hide. A network of bases across Cuba. El Salao is only part of the story. Satellite images have kept coming in, alarming governments and organizations upon identifying additional Cuban sites in development that could potentially support intelligence capture operations led by China. Perched in the hills near Havana, the Bejucal facility carries a legacy from the Cold War, having once housed Soviet nuclear weapons during the Cuban Missile Crisis. Bejucal has seen major upgrades in recent years, renewing U.S. concerns about its evolving role in global espionage. The installation of a radome in 2016 indicates a shift towards advanced electronic intelligence, with systems capable of tracking high-frequency signals and satellite data. Some reports suggest that China is behind Bejucal's modernization, adding signal interception and satellite monitoring capabilities that allow the complex to extend beyond terrestrial surveillance. This advancement could mean that China is on track to develop a sophisticated intelligence hub that will extend its influence over Cuban infrastructure and allow the nation to collaborate with other foreign powers, potentially exchanging intelligence or cooperating on counter-U.S. strategies. The Wahai base is another center highlighted in the most recent CSIS report. Located just over 6 miles from Bejucal, the Wahai facility has quietly expanded over the past 2 decades, acquiring an impressive collection of 12 antennas positioned for terrestrial signal interception, diverse support structures, and even a small solar farm to power operations. Perhaps what's most unsettling about this base is that the site is heavily guarded, hinting at escalating military operations in the region. If provided with the necessary technology, Weihai could become one of the leading Chinese centers for interception of U.S. military signals. Even if communications are encrypted, giving China free access to traffic patterns, frequency usage, and transmission times is enough to provide sensitive insights that reveal U.S. military timelines and command activity. But more disturbing is that Weihai, despite likely being constructed primarily as a listening station, could quickly be adapted into a center for electronic warfare, capable of jamming U.S. signals during military exercises or active operations, creating communication blackouts or disruptions, hindering U.S. forces from effectively coordinating and responding to threats. The Kalabazar facility, yet another significant military site highlighted in the CSIS report, brings a new and deeply distressing dimension to Cuba's intelligence operations. Outfitted with high-powered dish antennas, Kalabazar is strategically positioned to focus on space tracking and satellite interception. This capability places the heart of the U.S. space program under a looming, watchful eye. Positioned to observe U.S. rocket launches from Cape Canaveral and NASA's Kennedy Space Center, Kalabazar offers foreign intelligence agencies real-time data on U.S. space operations, orbital movements, and advancements in aerospace technology. Every launch sequence, every orbital trajectory, and every mission transmitted from U.S. soil could be within range. This shift from terrestrial surveillance to space-focused intelligence gathering reflects a calculated move by Cuba and its partners to pierce U.S. defense and technological capabilities by revealing vulnerabilities in the infrastructure or protocols of American agencies. The Cuba-China-Russia Partnership. Cuba's cooperation with China runs deep, with the two nations strengthening ties through debt relief, financial aid, and infrastructure development. In 2019, China extended a $120 million loan to modernize the port of Santiago de Cuba, enhancing its logistical and strategic capabilities. Additionally, Chinese telecom giants Huawei and ZTE now dominate Cuba's telecommunications infrastructure, giving China more access to data collection and wide-scale espionage. While Cuba's government regards its cooperation with China as critical to its economic survival, the proximity of such intelligence infrastructure has begun to raise unrest among the locals near the Salao base, and as espionage technology expands in the area, so too does the fear of creeping militarization. China is not the only U.S. rival that has extended its influence on Cuba. Just this summer, a fleet of Russian warships, including a nuclear-powered submarine, made their way to the island. Although Cuba dismissed the arrival of the vessels as part of a friendly visit, it's become increasingly difficult not to understand the visit as a signal of a strategic realignment between Moscow and Havana, transforming Cuba into a military outpost for foreign powers and bringing back the tensions of the Cold War to American shores by reviving Soviet SIGINT after decades of inactivity. The Lord SIGINT, located near Havana, one of the largest and most sophisticated overseas intelligence facilities in the world, was staffed by over 1,500 KGB, GRU, Cuban DGI, and Eastern Bloc operatives in its prime. The 28-square-mile facility served as a key Soviet asset, intercepting sensitive U.S. military and government communications. The base's strategic location, just 93 miles from Key West, allowed the Soviet Union to closely monitor U.S. military maneuvers, missile tests, and diplomatic communications. Although the Lord facility officially closed in 2002, recent years have seen multiple nations vying to control and revive Cuba's critical infrastructure. In 2014, Russia reportedly struck a deal with Cuba to reopen the former Soviet complex, reigniting intelligence operations from one of the Cold War's most strategic listening posts. An escalating threat to U.S. national security. The gravity of the situation has triggered concern across nations, many of whom view China's deepening presence in the region as an omen of global instability, increasing pressure on America to reach diplomatic agreements with Beijing. But the road toward peace talks becomes narrower by the day. Last year, the relations between both nations took a hit after the U.S. government confirmed that China had been actively expanding its intelligence operations in the Caribbean since at least 2019, and the U.S. Air Force shot down a Chinese surveillance balloon flying over Canadian and American territory. Although the device is believed not to have transmitted any intelligence back to its homeland, the incident left an indelible mark of the deeper intelligence war between the two countries. Ongoing diplomatic efforts have proved useless, and tensions remain at a dangerous high. China's refusal to reopen military communication channels has cast a long shadow over negotiations, forcing Washington to confront the harsh reality that its strategic landscape in the Western Hemisphere is being rapidly eroded by foreign forces. The stakes are clear. Without an aggressive counter-strategy, America's security foothold in its own hemisphere could disappear in just a couple of years, and as the geopolitical battleground shifts, the U.S. is left with no choice but to tighten its intelligence-sharing network with regional allies, strengthening its technology and alliances in hopes to counterbalance China's expanding influence before it's too late.